wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year. While we're waiting for everyone to join, I still see quite a few attorneys filtering in. Let's review some of the higher impact takeaways from my last interview, which was with Sam Abukadir. She's the founder of a 30-person estates and family firm, currently doubling its revenue each year. She had a lot of good points to share. But remember, she talked about networking. It remains a potent and affordable marketing channel for her. More than half of my guests lean heavily on relationship building in their early years, and a few in sort of more narrow niches still rely almost exclusively on professional referrals. So if your marketing budget is tight, I highly recommend you devote some time to building referral relationships. And to save time, the connections made can certainly be made or at least started online. Number two, another item that Sam really talked about, having a diverse team can really open productive marketing avenues. Again, nearly a dozen of my attorney guests have successfully marketed directly to their ethnic communities. Several used Facebook groups, others ran Facebook ads in their native languages. All found the tailored marketing to be quite profitable. And number three, fractional executives can be an affordable way to add senior talent. Few law firms are large enough to justify the expense of sort of full-time senior executives, but buying a few hours of C-level time each month can really be a cost-effective way around that limitation, and you don't need to make a monthly commitment if you find your own talent. You could try advertising on Indeed or LinkedIn. We've actually found both sources to be helpful here. Okay, turning to today's excellent session, my interview is with Brandon Pettijohn, a solo civil litigator and family law attorney whose revenue grew 150% just this year. So let's dive in and learn just how he generated that growth. Let's do it.
Hi, my name is Brandon Pettijohn. I'm the owner of Brandon C. Pettijohn Attorney at Law, PLLC, and better known sometimes as the Port City Attorney. It's kind of the brand that I've created for myself. I always knew that I wanted to run and own my own law firm. In law school, I had taken some classes on running your own firm, and it was always something I wanted to do. Prior to going to law school, I was in the military. I was in the United States Marine Corps. I was active duty for 4 years. Then I was in a reserve component for an additional 4 years while I was doing my undergrad. And then after my undergrad, I worked as a probation officer. I worked in veterans treatment courts. I worked for the Indiana Supreme Court as in policy with veterans treatment courts. And so in some form or fashion, I'd been in the government sector for 10 to 12 years. And so I knew that I didn't really want to go back to that. I wanted to try the private sector on my own. And particularly, I had that kind of entrepreneurial itch where I knew that I wanted to try it on my own. However, the one downside was I went to school in Indiana, where I was originally from, and I knew that I wanted to go back to North Carolina, where I am now. And so it was a little difficult not knowing, really many people in North Carolina within the legal space. And so kind of how I got to where I am now is, during my second year of law school, I just started connecting with every single attorney in the Wilmington, North Carolina area via LinkedIn. And, each time I came down here for like a mini vacation, I tried to have coffee with somebody. And I was just trying to develop some contacts down in this space. And so I got hooked up with a couple of guys that started a firm. They offered me an interesting offer where I was essentially a 1099. I was not really of counsel, but I was kind of counsel, where I was in their space, part of their firm, but I had my own direction on what I could do. It's an eat what you kill model. I always tell people it's kind of like being a real estate agent where, hey, I brought in my own business. They just took a cut off the top. So that gave me the kind of, foot in the door with how I liked running my own shop while being under somebody else. And so, about 2.5 years into practicing law, I decided that I was going to go out on my own. That was about 2.5 years ago. So we're, and so I started the firm and we're here now. And, it's been a roller coaster journey for sure, but, it's been good.
that's an interesting way to sort of transition, especially, kind of going from one geographic location where you may have a strong network and a strong base to, where you're practicing and sort of and really smart to kind of use LinkedIn to harness those those connections. So were you essentially just cold reaching out to attorneys in the area in North Carolina and offering kind of a coffee, or what was it? What were you doing specifically?
Yeah, I was connecting with I probably connected with, 300 different attorneys within the area, and I just sent them a message along with each one. Probably not the best idea, but I was doing it during class sometimes when when there wasn't a lot going on, but just said, hey, I'm a 2L or I'm a 3L. I'm thinking about relocating to Wilmington. I have interest in starting my own firm, and I'm just looking for contacts in the area that I could maybe have, coffee with next time I'm down in the area, or go grab lunch with, so I can learn a little bit more about the bar, the district bar around here, and just to kind of pick your brain. And so one of those conversations kind of morphed in that offer to come on as an associate, but more of like an of counsel position. And
Yeah.
so it was just kind of me being bullheaded and diligently trying to make connections that one of them, a couple of them stuck, but one in particular, led into me having a place to land whenever I got my bar results back.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. How big is your team now? Are you the only attorney, and how many support staff do you have?
Yeah, so I'm the only attorney. I have a paralegal and a legal assistant. So the first year, about the first 9 months, it was all me, which was awful. But it's just like um, it was fighting, trying to keep overhead low and productivity high, and I got to a point where I just couldn't do the running the different courthouses and filing things and the administrative stuff that I didn't need to be focusing on,
Right.
and plus do a lot of hourly rate things, and it I thought, and I found that it was more beneficial to the client if I had a paralegal who was billing at a lower rate to kind of help with some of the things, discovery and those sorts of things, because it saves them money and it opens me up to being able to do more things with more clients. And so yeah, we're a team of three right now. We'll probably be expanding early next year. Probably looking to add an associate in the next year or so. But yeah, the volume, it has increased, and we're staying steady and consistent. And so it's the fear of, I think, any new business owner. It's like, I never want to be in a position where I've got to scale back. So I want to make sure we have a strong base before we bring somebody on, because, I truly care about the people that work with me, work for me. And so I want to make sure that whatever I have is going to be sustainable for everybody.
Sure, and it's sort of about finding that balance that you're getting the help before you are sort of underwater and drowning, but also being
Right.
confident enough that you can support that expanded team. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
What types of cases is the firm primarily handling now, and give us an idea of case volume?
Yeah, so my primary areas are civil litigation. So I do a lot of business litigation, contract disputes, those sorts of things, and family law is another big area. High, like a lot of high value divorce clients. When I first opened, I had kind of that generalist view. And so we kind of went away from that. So really, civil litigation, to include personal injury, is my main area. And then, family law is kind of my secondary area. Volume wise, I we've got, I'm trying to think, we have a pretty good volume of clients right now. We're probably about 80 to 90% of what we can handle with the current support staff. And then, also with the personal injury, I'm also the lead local counsel for a couple large firms that with the Pettijohn lawsuit that's going on. So luckily, those firms are doing a lot of the client facing matters until we start litigating those. And so we'll probably have to add some additional support staff once those Pettijohn cases start taking priority, but we're not really sure where we're at in that process because it's still, very new and very early.
Sure. At what percentage pace is the firm currently growing?
Um, I don't have an exact number, and I probably could. But we are um from last year to this year, we have increased gross revenue 150%.
Oh, wow. Nice. Nice. That's a good growth rate. What's sort of fueling that? What
Yeah.
are the primary sources of new business, Brandon?
Yeah. So honestly, I think so. I did two things. So I've been involved with social media since 2019. Early 2019 or early 2020 rather. I started getting some pretty good traction and on TikTok. I'm now up to about a 500,000 viewers on followers on TikTok. Between TikTok, Facebook, got a YouTube channel that we're working. And so, we get a steady referral stream from that. It's nothing exorbitant or outlandish, but it is organic, which is good.
Do you
But
quantify it at all about how many qualified leads are you getting through social media?
um we are probably getting at least 10 a month, I would say, from social media. Now,
Cases, right?
qualified leads, we get more.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that can attribute our growth is that, one being that we were I'm a fairly new firm. We've had our doors open for about 2.5 years now. And so just kind of being in the community, doing quality work for clients, and then that word of mouth leading to, organic referrals has been big. And the second thing I did was, so Wilmington is kind of the base metropolitan area of southeastern North Carolina. But one of the growing communities just outside of Wilmington is Leland, where they're putting hundreds of $1 million in this community. A bunch of people are moving here, and so I actually moved my offices across the river to Leland, because there was no attorneys here in this area besides real estate closing attorneys. And so we've noticed a pretty steady growth in qualified leads coming just from organic Google searches, because we're really the only litigation attorney in town. So that has been good for our growth as well, because it's taking a little bit of a gamble moving out of the downtown Wilmington space, just because I knew that people might not want to cross the bridge for meetings and stuff like that. But I also took into account the changes that, the COVID, era had on everybody, and everybody's a little bit more, people are more comfortable doing Zoom meetings
Right.
and calling. And so I don't, while we have people that come into the office, it's not, the volume isn't like it was in 2019. It's much different now in 2023, whereas people are just like, hey, I'm cool jumping on a phone call. I'm cool jumping on Zoom. It's just that convenience factor. And
Right.
so, it was a little bit of a calculated risk, but it's so far paid off. We kept a small office space in Wilmington, just in case, but we really haven't had to use it, which has been nice.
Yeah, add a less competitive location. I mean, that makes
Yep.
perfect sense. So obviously, organically, you're performing better. There's less competition in the Leland area. Are you doing anything specifically to drive that traffic? Are you investing in SEO, or is it just sort of happened with the move?
Yeah, it just happened with the move. I was running ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. We were working on our SEO. We were doing Google ads. Um, and I got to a point where I decided to take a break from that because we were getting some decent organic growth. And so I haven't ran ads in over a year.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we've experienced more growth just on the organic side than anything. And I recognize that it is something that I need to start putting some more time and resources in at some point. Most likely when I'm ready to bring on that associate. But right now, we're at a pretty good capacity without having to expend that money on advertising. And so, while I say I don't do advertising, we do YouTube videos and those sorts of things, which is a form of advertising. So, I am putting money into that. We have an editing team and stuff. So, um, you know, trying to take the model of, some of the folks that you had on, excuse me, and just slowly grow and try not to overburden myself with the things that other people can be doing, like editing videos or even just like the administrative tasks.
Right. Well, it sounds like at this point you're not really spending a whole lot on marketing. Is that right? I mean, what percent of your revenue would you say you're investing in marketing and advertising right now?
I'd say we're probably 5 to 10% of our revenue we're investing in marketing and advertising. Well, actually, it's probably five. I think my goal would be to, hey, once I'm ready to step it up, let's go to 10 and see where it's at. But there's not a whole lot. We've done some, we're doing things in the community as well. And but as far as ad spend dollars, it's can't not a lot right now.
Yeah, so no PPC right now, no Facebook ads, mostly organic, social,
Mm-mm.
spending some money on the editing, the production of those videos, certainly. Is that right?
Yeah, and the biggest, I think the biggest one is just social media. That brand recognition. I spent well, actually, so I purchased the Port City Attorney URL while I was still in law school. I got all the social media handles still in law school, and so I've really been building um, the Port City Attorney brand since 2017, before while I was still in law school. So so I've been working on that brand recognition, and I think that just enough time in the space has kind of helped. Well, I know it's helped. And so that brand recognition's been a big part of our growth. I say it's organic, but obviously there's ad spend and time and resources and money put into that. But that brand recognition's been really really a big part of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Let's dive in a little bit to the social media stuff. As you said, you're at Port City Attorney. You have almost 500,000 followers on TikTok, 16.7 million likes. What are you doing? What are the topics that really seem to be resonating and gaining traction for you on social media?
Yeah, I have, social media ebbs and flows, and what people want or like changes all the time. And so the main sticking point, the main goal that I had was that I wanted to I grew up I didn't have any attorneys in my family. I didn't really know any attorneys growing up. And so I always had that vision or that view that, attorneys were just kind of like, holier than thou, stuffy, corporate types. And so one of the things that I wanted to do when I got on social media was to kind of humanize the profession and show people that, hey, look, we're people too. We come from all different walks of life and backgrounds. We worked our tails off to get, into this profession, but we're no different than anybody else. And so the types of videos that I do are a little bit, a blend of legal based information, and a lot of all my YouTube videos are like legal breakdowns of different, body cam footage, news, those sorts of things, but also just doing funny comedy skits based on hypothetical situations that I bring up. um and so but the ultimate goal has been to show people that me, myself, and a lot of attorneys out there aren't just, we're people too, and we like to have fun, we're humorous, we curse, we drink, we do all the things that everyone else does in the world. But we just have a different job. And so I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. People who have commended me or commented me on to me about, just that they appreciate that, we're normal people as well. It makes it less intimidating. And I've taken the same thing into my practice as well. I mean, I'm wearing, a shirt and hat and showing my tattoos. And I had a client come in last week and they said, "Hey, that's refreshing rather than somebody coming out here in a $3,000 suit." And so, I think that people, especially the clientele, attorneys for the most part, people come to us, at least litigation attorneys, they come to us in a very trying time, whether it's they're, getting sued, or they're looking to sue somebody, or they've been injured, or they're going through a divorce. The last thing they want, or the last thing they need, is to be intimidated. And so, sometimes the big flashy office and all this, they're just like, man, this is going to cost me. Or it could have the opposite effect, but someone coming out that looks like them, that's not overdressed, it doesn't look like they have better things to do. If you really take the time and just kind of, it's just, it's getting in a spot, through social media and in person, where I can make people feel the most comfortable with attorneys. And if I can do that, not only for myself, but for the profession at whole, I feel like, that's my goal have been met.
You're taking a very approachable, approach, right? You're very conversational, very casual, and I think that's clearly resonating. I'm interested. Why do you think that your growth has been so much more rapid on TikTok as opposed to Instagram? Have you put more time and resources into TikTok, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, so originally all my time was spent with, trying to grow TikTok. I think that a lot of it was luck. You can get a viral, it's not hard to get a viral video on TikTok. It's a lot harder to get a viral video on Instagram or Facebook, just the way the algorithm seems to work. And so, my first, major viral video on TikTok got about 13 million views. And so, that's where like my rapid growth started. And so I jumped on that train while it was growing, and I put out a lot of consistent videos that were pretty similar to the one that went viral. And and that just propelled my growth on that platform, exponentially. And so at the time, I wasn't putting a lot of focus into Instagram. And so since then, I've really shifted gears, and I've started putting more time and energy into Instagram. I think that the algorithm on TikTok has changed a little bit. They kind of did away with the TikTok creator program, and there's less incentives for folks, and Instagram's tried to like fill that void a little bit. And so I think a lot of people are moving platforms, or at least less on TikTok, at least the client, the people that I see, because I feel like my views on TikTok and my views on Instagram are starting to flip a little bit. I'll still get some, decent outcome videos on TikTok, but yeah, no, it's weird. I just think that the algorithm, or the viewers, or the content structure, whatever it is, tends to ebb and flow on any platform. And so right now I am focusing a little bit more on Instagram, because I just feel like I need to try to, close that gap a little bit. And you're getting a little bit more traction on Instagram right now.
Sure. I'm interested. What was that first viral video on TikTok? What was it about? Was it a reaction?
It was so I was like standing in a suit, and I said, going to try to convince a judge that somebody put meth in my client's Gatorade, and like hopped out the room. Um and it's funny, it's like, and that was like the first major one, and people are always like, "Oh my gosh, what happened with the client?" And I'm always like, "Hey guys, it's not real. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about real clients. I'm not going to risk my license for clout." So it's always funny when I do those scenarios and people ask for outcomes, and I'm like, 99% of these are made up, and the other 1% is just stuff I've seen. It's never about my actual clients.
Right, right. Yeah, that's good. That's good. How often are you posting and how often are you shooting to get enough content?
Yeah, so I shoot about once a week. Right now, I was talking a lot about Instagram, but right now my focus has been on YouTube. And so I shoot once a week for about an hour and a half. I'm also, not only do I have my channel at Port City Attorney, but I'm also a part of the Attorney Reacts page, which is a group of lawyers that my buddy attorney Tom, been really good friends with him for several years now. And so there's a group of rotating attorneys where they post videos like 3 times a week or something like that. And so I'm shooting content for them, but I'm also shooting content for myself at that time. And then the TikTok and Instagram, I probably should be more diligent about what topics I choose, but it's ordinarily just comes from me scrolling and being like, oh, that's a funny idea for a video. And so, it just kind of, those platforms, I feel like I've seen people put production value, excuse me. I've seen people put production value into TikTok and Instagram, and I just don't know that the ROI is there. I think that people are more into because of reels and because of TikTok, you got to catch them within the first 3 seconds. You got to get them hooked quick. Now with Instagram, or I'm sorry, with YouTube, you still got to do that hook, which is why the intro to my YouTube videos, and there's been some folks have done some research, and so just a really quick, hey, I'm Brandon, Port City Attorney, this is a video we're watching today, let's get into it. That keeps them there. The video pulls them in, and then you kind of, the commentary and how you handle what's going on the screen also keeps them there, but you've got them hooked on that initial hook. With TikTok and Instagram, it is much easier for someone to just swipe than it is for someone to go and find the next video on YouTube, because typically they're just going down that YouTube rabbit hole like I do, or I'm like, oh, it suggested this video, I'm gonna go there next. So with TikTok and Instagram, I just feel like if I find it entertaining or informative or funny, and I can do something very quickly, at least to get their attention, that's going to keep them there. And so I don't see a lot of value in that production, like in putting money and time into that production. Whereas, because it's a different clientele viewership. They're there just to be entertained. They're not necessarily there to be informed. Whereas you go to YouTube to get informed. I mean, that look up how to change an alternator on YouTube, or how to defend my own case or something like that. So it's just the difference of the platforms and knowing that your clientele and your viewership.
Yeah, yeah, that's an important distinction. I'm interested. The Attorney Tom, the Lawyer Reacts YouTube group, is that like a collaborative group? Do you share the leads? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's a collaborative group in that, so a lot of us met at various different conferences, and very a couple of the attorneys in there, I've shared and leaned on for referral relationships. But there's the Attorney Reacts YouTube page, is also monetized, and so there's a financial structure to it as well, and all that. And so but it's been a fantastic resource, and just growing that network, and because we're on a Slack page with each other. There's attorneys from different areas in the country, Arkansas, California, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, all these different areas, and we're all connected there, and we all have different practice areas. And so it is a good resource to say, hey, this isn't about a video, but I got a need for this kind of attorney in this state who can help me out. And it's been a good resource portal that I wouldn't have had if I wasn't active on social media.
Smart. That's really cool. Not only a little referral network, but maybe a little mini mastermind group too. If you're having a problem, you can kind of
Yeah.
exchange ideas. Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. I'm interested, Brandon, are you using AI in your practice, either for marketing or in your daily work?
So when I need to, again, SEO. I need to get back on SEO, but I was using AI kind of help with some of my blog posts, just to get stuff started. Like, hey, here's a topic, and use that as kind of a footprint. Um, I noticed that I think Lexus just rolled out AI, which I might give a shot. So I haven't really used it substantively yet. I'm still a little bit nervous about, it's just very early. I don't know if you heard that. I read an article about some attorney used AI to write a brief, and it used like made up case law, and like, I'm still I've leaned in fully to technology, but I'm not sure about that because, while it could save time and money, um, to me, I think it needs to be a little bit more reliable because, I've listened to a couple podcasts that were AI specific. Listened to the president or CEO of OpenAI and some other folks in that space, and you know, AI works by, it scans the internet and it finds the information you're looking for, and it tries to give you the best, the best answer. However, there's a lot of wrong information on the internet, and they can collect that. And so until AI gets to a point where, it can filter that out, I still think that us as legal professionals owe a professional responsibility to our clients not to use that as our primary source, but as a tool. And so, if there's an issue, I mean, I've used AI to ask a question like, hey, what's this specific issue, like what's happened with it in another state or something like that. And sometimes it'll come up, and I don't really use it as a main source. Legal research is never going to go away, but AI can help in that, which is why Lexus has done that, and they've implemented AI now. And so I'm sure, Westlaw and all the other platforms are going to do that as well. But I use Lexus, and so I just see the emails come through.
Yeah, yeah. Just kind of tiptoeing into that area. I understand that for sure. Brandon, can I ask one of your biggest mistakes you've made or lessons learned in growing the firm?
It's a good question. I think one of the biggest lessons learned was trying to. Oh wow, that was gross.
You
Like a
okay?
hair or something. Um, I think one of the biggest lessons learned or the biggest mistakes that I made was trying to take on too much on my own and trying to stay solo and self-sufficient for so long. When I was doing that, again, I was trying to keep overhead low, and I was trying to, be as less of a burden on myself or my clients or whatever at one point. Um, and so I felt like I almost inhibited my growth by not growing faster, if that makes sense. Um, Trying to stay small but grow at the same time. Those are opposing, viewpoints, and those, that's, you can't grow unless you're willing and ready to grow. And so my biggest thing was I wanted to keep overhead low. I wanted to try to build my base before I brought people on, and before I, and I was still accepting, more and more clients. And so my work days were long and arduous, and so I think that my inability to allow myself to just kind of step out of my own space and say, hey, look, let's just take the leap and let's bring people on. I think that was one major thing, and something that really helped. I've had a good relationship with, you've had Ali Awad on. Him and I have had a good relationship, and um, I went to one of his conferences that he put on a couple of years ago, and kind of opened my eyes on like what I need to be doing. And so it gave me a lot of good ideas, and I felt like a lot of my growth kicked off from there. And I've got some extremely good mentors. Again, Attorney Tom's a great friend of mine. He's been a great mentor with me stepping into my own space. We've collaborated on, various cases. We're collaborating on the Camp Lejeune, cases. And so just getting outside of stepping outside of my comfort zone and being willing to grow and learn and constantly shift what the market's doing. has helped my growth, exponentially. I think that just, I think, we're all of us our own worst critics. We're our own worst enemies. And until you're ready, to allow yourself the freedom to, step outside your comfort zone and do what needs to be done, you're not going to have that growth.
It definitely sounds like sort of surrounding yourself with other small law firm owners, growth-minded, entrepreneurial lawyers has really helped you kind of pave your path and find your way, which I think is really cool.
Yeah,
Brandon,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Before we wrap up, I always like to ask if a lawyer watching has time to adopt maybe only one or two of your tips, what would you recommend?
So, one would be consistency. Social media, it's all about, it's fueling your brand recognition. And so you got to be consistent. Now, that's something that is difficult, especially if you're a small or solo practitioner, because life gets in the way. And so, caseloads are busy. There's family, obligations, all these things, but you have to consistently post even when you're not seeing that the growth right away. You're not going to see the growth right away. However, one of those videos will gain traction at some point. In that traction, you can do one of two things. It can snowball into something bigger and bigger and bigger, or it can just die right there if you don't continue posting similar videos or similar content. So just being consistent, not bombarding folks' feeds, not giving them information or stuff that they don't want, but being consistent. And two is just tailoring your approach to what the market is asking for, right? It's all about supply and demand. We're going to supply whatever content that they're demanding. So if you're posting videos and you're getting, a couple likes here, a couple likes there, maybe switch up what you're doing. Be able to pivot and rotate and change whatever you're doing, because if you're posting a certain similar video and you're not getting a lot of traction off of it, maybe just switch it up just a little bit to see if the market will accept that, right? And so trying different things out. You don't have to change your brand, you don't have to change anything, but just switch it up. Do a different video here, do a different video there. If one of them works, maybe do a couple more, in that, maybe do a couple more, and then it could, lead into something else. The biggest thing about social media for me is just brand recognition. We went from, billboards and infomercials, which cost a lot of money, to social media, where, we're on people's phones all the time. And it costs, $0 to start an Instagram page and just start posting. Whereas if back in the day, if you wanted to be in, on people's screens, you had to do an infomercial, and there was production, there was TV time, there was all these things. Utilize the benefits to being in the 21st century, and just get in front of their screen. That's the biggest thing that you can do.
It's so true. Social media has really leveled the playing field in so many ways. Excellent advice,
Mhm.
consistency, stick with it. Even if you don't see that growth right away, don't give up, and then speak to what your community actually wants. Read those comments. Sometimes there can be gold in those comments. What are people asking about? Shoot a video on that and really kind of pivot, test, pivot, right? That's really, really good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And reading the comments is good, but make sure you got thick skin.
Yeah.
Because people are, nameless sometimes, and they just want to say stuff, and it's not great. I've posted videos where I'm like, man, I feel like I've like aged a lot since I started my own firm, and people were like, yeah, you look like crap, and I'm like, oh, come on, guys. But
Hey,
yeah, no,
yeah,
comments, yeah, like you said, there is gold in those comments. And maybe have your support staff read those comments, and they can filter out the ones that they tell you about.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's true.
yeah, absolutely. But there is gold in those comments. People will leave, hey, I want you to do a video on this, or I want to ask you about this. And so there is such good feedback from those comments.
Yeah, excellent. Brandon, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your insight. You were super generous. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to watching some more of your guys' interviews and videos.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, lots of good stuff from Brandon today, right? Here are the key takeaways I see. One, the sooner you start building your brand, the better. Brandon wisely selected and purchased an easy to say, easy to remember brand name while still in law school. That brand name has a steadily increasing value that will increase the worth of his firm should Brandon ever choose to step away from the law. Number two, delaying your expansion hires can restrict growth. I see this a lot. Trying to do everything yourself for too long can keep you from focusing on work that makes a real difference. Investing in growth, when done wisely, can lift your firm to a level where work becomes certainly more enjoyable, your hours return to sensible levels, and your compensation increases. Number three, when practical, go where competition is light. So Brandon obviously moved his office to a neighboring city where he had zero direct competition, but you can also rent inexpensive space and pursue organic rankings without physically relocating, right? So the key to success is selecting locations with light Google My Business competition. That's the key. Number four, social media success connects you with other stars. So more than a dozen of my guests, including Brandon, have told me that their large followings have entered them into a club of sorts, right? A club of lawyers who also have large followings. They collaborate a number of ways, including, of course, referring cases to each other. Brandon is actually the first guest to tell me about a revenue sharing, group profile. That's interesting. But know that multiple doors will open when you have popular content and when you have a popular social profile. And lastly, number five, growing a social following requires wise topic selection. Topic selection is key. So posting videos that only a dozen people see accomplishes little, right? You need to experiment until you find an approach that resonates with your target audience. Then you can sprinkle in videos that highlight the work you do, but sticking religiously to legal issues that you want to explain instead of providing what viewers want, that rarely succeed. If you want my help lifting your social profiles to a higher level, we can certainly help. I'll drop my appointment setter in the chat now, but my team and I know what resonates, how to produce it efficiently. Set an appointment with me if you want to learn more, if you want to learn how to do it. I hope my interview with Brandon today has been helpful. Tune in for the next interview. My next interview is with an attorney who has built a 19-person injury firm focused primarily on nursing home neglect cases. He leans heavily on referrals for those nursing home cases, spending only 15% of revenue on marketing. Join me then. Can't wait for it. Until then, keep marketing. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.